America first, beginning with MAGA and ending with MAGA. If we were to summarize President Trump's inaugural address in one phrase, this would be it. From his very first day in office, President Trump issued a series of executive orders to implement his key campaign promises. We will analyze President Trump's inaugural address to predict changes over the next 4 years. Joining us in the studio is Dr. Lee Soohoon from the Korea Institute for Defense Analysis, specializing in U.S. foreign and security policy. Welcome, Dr. Lee.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, traditionally, President's inaugural speech emphasizes unity. And certainly, we saw that the color choice for his tie, which was purple, right? It was a blend of Republican red and Democratic blue. But in his speech, he criticized policies from the previous government, such as economic policy and disaster relief capacity. So how do you assess his inaugural speech in general?
So I guess his speech, his inauguration speech, actually reflected unity in overall. He mentioned every element of his society is there and also voted for him, from young and old, men and women, African American, Asian American, etc. It is true that during the campaign and during the election, he got more votes for Hispanic and Black than he did in 2020, back in 2020 election. So I guess his overall inauguration speech may be reflecting unity in general, but we'll have to see the inauguration day. So after his speech and after the main event, he visited Capital One Arena, where thousands of his supporters were attending to see him. In that arena, in that speech, he criticized Biden in various ways. And after that, in his Oval Office, he signed executive order, which is about withdrawing from the Paris Climate Accord. So I guess in that sense, it wasn't really hard to see the unity in general, but Inauguration Day overall assesses that political unity wasn't there.
Yeah, of course. So let's discuss his inaugural speech by issues. The first thing that he mentioned during his speech was obviously immigration, which was quite expected. He mentioned this very stringent policies such as declaring emergency along the border region, sending troops there, and also initiating mass deportation, right? So this extreme policy change may have some impact in American society as well as its U.S. relations with neighboring countries.
Yes. So I guess immigration was the top agenda during his campaign. It has been, and it was one of his top agendas during his first administration back in 2018. And in the inauguration speech, he mentioned he's going to declare a national emergency over the southern border, and he's going to send troops to the southern border. The objective of this sending troops and declaring national emergency is to stop immigration from Mexico. In other words, stop having those illegal immigrants crossing the border. So that's going to be the main agenda for his second administration as well. So in that regard, he declared Alien Enemies Act, which was enacted, I believe, 98, right? So it was about pushing a charge against those spies, and it was invoked during World War I and II. So it is surprising that he's mentioning that again and he's re-invoking that in 2025. So that actually shows his passion and his agenda-driven passion on this immigration policy. So it's not only it's not going to be applied only on the Mexico U.S. southern border, but I guess it will also be applied to the northern border as well. What I mean by that is, during the campaign and after he was elected, he mentioned about imposing a tariff on both Canada and Mexico. The reason for that is, hey Canada, hey Mexico, if you want to lower your tariff, you will have to control your immigration over to the United States. So overall, his policy, what he's doing right now, right after the immigration, is about controlling this immigration. And this is part of his America First credo, his foreign policy. And I think it will be strengthened down the road.
Well, certainly issue linkage can happen in other areas as well. And he also mentioned that the U.S. will build the most powerful army in the world. I think he actually meant it, although there are lots of legal and obstacles and resistance from the Congress. But how this vision shaped the U.S. defense policy, in your opinion?
I think Professor Kim, you know more than I do, and because we all are waiting for his Indo-Pacific strategy, national security strategy, national defense strategy to come out. Probably this end of this year or next year. By then, we'll be able to find out what his policies are on the military. But as far as I know, and as far as I heard from the folks in Washington and read those news about Senate confirmation hearing about Pete Hegseth, defense, Secretary of Defense, and so on, we know that it's going to be about efficiency. So recall DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency. I think this efficiency, this factor will be applied to all branches of government, including the Department of Defense. And of course, President Trump will try to strengthen his military overall over theaters, especially in the Indo-Pacific theater where China is located. But at the same time, he will try to seek more efficiency over this agenda as well. So I think we'll have to see. We'll have to wait until this NSS and NDS to come out. But at the same time, we know that this DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, will work as some kind of monitor or some kind of observer of this military growth.
Yes, and he and his supporters previously mentioned that the U.S. should stay away from regional conflict that does not align with the U.S. interest. So many argue that that can have some impact on the U.S. leadership globally. So what's your thoughts about this policy change?
President Trump imposing higher tariff on China and also trying to work with partners or not work with partners, it's about trying to win a war without a fight, which means we're expecting some kind of bloodless, we're not shedding blood anywhere, but we're going to sustain this leadership or global hegemony without fighting in the battlefield. I think that's some kind of policy embedded in this theory or concept of U.S. is not going to play a global policeman anymore. So that's sort of the trend or direction of President Trump's second administration. And I think that will definitely affect U.S. leadership in general. But we all know that U.S. is playing a different card, not only the military, but it's playing an economic card, imposing sanctions and so on. So I think U.S. will, Trump administration will try to hold its leadership, sustain its leadership based on its economic ability over the world.
Yes. I also believe that what the U.S. is trying to do is increasing deterrence capabilities the purpose of the deterrence is to strengthening your capability in order to avoid any conflict with the other, right? So speaking of deterrence, he also mentioned that North Korea is a nuclear power. It was quite expected as well, but that such policy change can bring about lots of concerns because, well, it's a direct challenge to the NPT treaty, and also it's can have some impact on the U.S. positions and UN positions on the illegal nuclear program in North Korea, right? So considering those resistance, do you think his vision for North Korea or his policy toward North Korea can be actually implemented in the long run?
So this so-called, so let me quote unquote the complete phrase. I remember, it's not an official, but he, I think the scene was he was in the Oval Office talking to the press. And one of the journalists asked him the question, what's your policy on DPRK? And I think his word was, he is a nuclear power. Here, he meaning Kim Jong-un.
Okay.
So after that, even among the experts, we're discussing what does he mean by that? Does he mean that like North Korea is a nuclear state, or does it have a nuclear power? Because it really has a massive effect on NPT as well. So we'll have to figure that out later on. We're in the process of figuring that out, what he mean by the nuclear power is. But overall, President Trump, would he start the negotiation with DPRK on denuclearization? I think that's a question mark. Now, U.S., especially President Trump's negotiation with DPRK on its denuclearization can be done in twofold. First, in bilateral fashion. So back in Hanoi and Singapore, back there, President Trump, in the end of the deal, he said, no deal is better than the bad deal. So, which means he didn't get what he wanted from the deal negotiation. So without a proper or enough discussion among the working level between DPRK and US, I don't see a possibility of the bilateral denuclearization talk between Trump and Kim Jong-un. But we'll have to also consider another factor where US President Trump, in the process of working towards ending the Russian-Ukraine war, what he said he's going to end in 24 or 48 hours, I think there is a North Korean variable there too. So he probably will, when in the process of ending this war in the negotiation, he may mention DPRK variable and how DPRK deploying troops in the Russian border may be a great threat to the international community and regional security. So in that sense, I think there is a possibility that DPRK variable may be handled in a fashion where President Trump getting involved in mitigating between Russia and Ukraine. And that will probably complicate U.S. strategic calculus in the region.
So do you mean during the negotiation phase over the ending of the Ukraine crisis, do you think the U.S. may reach out to North Korea to stop their support to Russia?
There are two ways, I think. President Trump can reach out to Kim Jong-un directly, or he can talk to President Putin to ask him to talk to Kim Jong-un, so, or force him to, or make him to stop sending troops to the Russian border. That card can be on the table when Trump and Putin really gets into this negotiation.
So depending on the scenario,
Right.
the U.S. may or may not directly engage with the DPRK, right?
That's my guess. Yeah.
Okay, right. And let me talk about economic issues. During his speech, President Trump mentioned the Foreign Imports Agency, while he also mentioned that universal tariff has not been prepared yet. So many are concerned about this tariff policy. How do you foresee Trump's idea of advancing tariff policy to be implemented and in the long run?
In terms of the tariff, in terms of external economy, I think external revenue service, I call ERS, that's one of the main theme of the speech, inauguration speech, and his probably the economic policy on forward. But all of this economic policy, as we witnessed during the Trump first administration, it all reflects the value of the America First policy, which means he's going to protect his U.S. manufacturer, especially in the Rust Belt, and he's going to protect his automobile, shipbuilding industry, semiconductor, and etc. Of course, that is about part of the U.S.-China competition as well, and that extends out to the supply chain as well. So when it comes down to the partnership and allies, Korea, we are pretty worried about what his policy is going to be. So for example, he's going to, as I mentioned earlier, he's going to impose 25% tax on Canada and Mexico. And it has never done or been before, imposing tariff on Canada, Mexico. But when it comes down to manufacture, for example, if there's a manufacturer site in Mexico from Korea or Japan, Korean manufacturer or Japanese manufacturer, if the product processed, made in that manufacturer is sent to the U.S., exported to the U.S., that may be under subject for the tariff. And that may affect the U.S.-Korea alliance or U.S.-Japan alliance. So we'll have to take a closer look at how this policy will shift or change or develop down the next 1 or 2 years.
Okay, I have one last question. Actually, President Trump interestingly mentioned William McKinley, and he also mentioned at the same time, regaining control over Panama Canal. So, well, I don't believe that he actually meant to implement a policy of territorial expansion by coercion, which is obviously in violation of the international law. But we have some concerns because actually he said that, right? He hinted that. So what do you think his underlying motive here?
I think like multiple motives there.
Okay.
So, for example, and it also is both Panama and Greenland, they're related to U.S.-China competition, obviously, right? So let's talk about Panama. Panama Canal, President Trump said it is controlled by China. But it is the effort, the product itself, Panama Canal was the effort of the Americans. But now China is operating it, so we'll have to take this over. Greenland, China, I believe, was it 2018 when they actually they implemented, executed Arctic strategy. He knows that. That was during his first term. So he believes that Arctic, Greenland, is a strategically important location. Therefore, both Panama and Greenland, he will try to acquire those two. And especially for the Greenland, it's not the first time he mentioned it. He mentioned it in his first term as well. So if you recall what happened in the Pacific Islands, after China had opened the relations with Solomon Islands, then back then, a couple of years ago, this level of interest, diplomatic interest in that region by U.S., Western Hemisphere, Japan, it had been, that place, that location had been very hot in terms of political, international politics. So I think that's what's happening in Greenland and Panama. And realistically, I'm not sure how that is possible at this moment. But again, America First policy and how he is very much objective driven in terms of his leadership. We'll have to see what's going to really happen.
Yes, I think we are entering an era of uncertainty because
I believe so.
Yes, I think observing the pace and the scope of this change is very, very crucial, right, in the coming years. And I think we have to keep observing how these initiatives that he mentioned during the inaugural speech can be implemented. Yes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.